Good morning, everyone. How are we all doing today?
Good.
Good,
Hot, but
good,
good.
good. Well, hot. We were just talking before we started recording that we're all in different places. I'm in Rhode Island here in New England. Our returning guest, John, thanks so much for being back on, John. I know you guys know who he is, country's radio coach. He's in Nashville. So John was explaining to me how hot it's been there. It's been extremely hot here. And I didn't get a chance to ask you, Steve, but you made it seem, oh, you said it was in the 90s there as well.
Already with
In
lovely humidity.
in Virginia. Are
Yeah.
you in West Virginia?
No, Virginia,
Just regular.
Shenandoah Valley.
Yep.
Shenandoah Valley.
Yep. So we got different places here, but we're all hot. We're ready to gear up into our 4th of July week next week. Hopefully you guys have some vacation time planned and some fun things to do with your family. But in the meantime, I wanted to bring John back on. This is the Power of Podcast, RDI's podcast. You guys know myself, Bethany Barsoian. I'm your host, and Steve Allen is our programming research consultant at RDI. And he basically writes all of our hot topics as well. So if you guys haven't had a chance to check out our hot topics videos, you can find those here on the channel as well. Steve and I have a good time recording some deep dives into those topics. But today, John, the reason I wanted to bring you back on, I mean, I love all of your articles. John writes for Radio Inc., and his articles span across a bunch of different topics within the radio space. Obviously, you're a radio guy, and specifically on the programming side, just like Steve. But this particular article really stuck out to me because it's about mental health, and I think we can all agree right now that everybody is sort of struggling in different areas, just with the state of the world, the economy, whatever, health. Everyone has different scenarios, but we talk a lot about connection with radio and making sure that when you're, whether you're a radio personality, you're running a radio group, that you're trying to connect with audiences, because that's what people really are seeking and thriving, especially these millennials, right? And the Gen Zs. We talked about that before. So, John, this article focuses on mental health. It's Mental Health Matters and what it's time to do. And you have a lot of ideas in here. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about what inspired you to write this.
Well, first of all, what inspired me was the Cameron Coates, who's the radio editor for Radio Inc., came to me and said, "Hey, it would really be neat. We're doing this Mental Health Matters subject throughout the month of May, and it'd be nice if you could address it in some way, shape, or form." So I started thinking about it, and I'm seeing everybody talk about radio stations and inside the building and all of that, and no one is thinking about the people outside. That's when it hit me. I thought, this is where I think we can really, if you really want to think connection, what a great way to make a connection and open up to listeners. I've done some listening, and I'll have, there's going to be a column I'm going to write, I'm going to put out in about a month about what we can learn from contemporary Christian radio from a talent standpoint. But I've listened to one station a week there, and they do a really good job of that connection, of being vulnerable on the air and getting the listeners to be vulnerable back. And I think that's where that came from. And I just feel like we give them concert tickets, we're giving away this and we're giving away that, and we're playing 50 minutes of commercial-free music and all kinds of things that we've been doing for years, but never once have we asked them, "How you doing?" And
It's
tell
such
us.
a simple question, but I mean, who's
What
asking it?
that plays into, right, is that radio's strength forever. The power of
Absolutely.
radio has been companionship, right? The best talent on the air is your friend. I mean, those are the great radio talents, someone that you'd want to have a beer with, right, or just hang out with, because they are not only funny, witty, entertaining, but they're also vulnerable, and I think that's a key word there.
Right. And I think that, and I go back because this will age me, but when you listen to a DJ on the radio when I was a kid, that was like your connection,
Mm-hmm.
and you looked up to that individual as the spokesperson for your generation, and they all
Trusted,
became that.
right?
And it was, you could remember the movie American Graffiti, just how this kid was determined to get to Wolfman Jack and get this request because he knew Wolfman Jack would understand. And that's the kind of thing that I think we can still do. And it also addresses the mental health of the listener because they're going through so much. And I see it, I see it from my 26-year-old daughter who went through a pandemic, graduated, got handed a diploma, in our house because she couldn't go to graduation. And they
Crazy.
grew up differently, and a lot of them are growing up with phones and not communication. So there's just a lot we can do to create that connection that makes them feel that they're part of something, you know. And it also, when you feel like you're part of something, that does give you it kind of calms you down a bit, if you don't mind me saying that. It just makes you feel, when you're part of a team, when you're part of a group, and everybody kind of feels the same way. It's easier for you to say, "Oh, I've been through that. Let me help you with it." And now all of a sudden, you have people helping each other, and it just it improves you mentally when you're helping somebody. It improves you mentally when somebody's helping you. So why can't we do this as a radio station?
So how would you coach a talent to be more vulnerable?
Well,
To open up like that.
it's. I would probably sit down and say, "So how's your day going? How's your day been? How's your week been?" And because I manage an artist now too, and one of the things when she's writing a song, she'll come to me and say, "Wow, I broke up with this guy, which is every 2 weeks, and I broke up with this guy, and he did this and this, and I'm just so." And I look at her, I say, "Write about it." And, well, you think I should? Yes, it's coming from here. You've experienced.
Exactly.
That's where I would start. Is I would talk to the personality about just how their week has been, and kind of zero in on some things that, you know share it with the listeners. If let's say they're having an issue with their child, and maybe they don't want to open up too much, but maybe there's something they could bring up that can get the listeners involved, to help him out, and
Yeah.
that's or her out. That's another way to connect with them. But yeah, that's how I would start, is just to get from a personal level what's going on with them, because that's the only way you're going to be able to open them up. A lot of there are personalities who do that now, but I think a lot of them are afraid to, because they're afraid, that they're going to get painted into a corner. Somebody's going to think I'm not, I'm this type of person. But it's one of those things that I think it's important for us now more than ever to be uh, honest, because there's
Yeah,
not much honesty on our airwaves. If you
that's
know what I'm
true.
saying.
Well, and I think I can understand some reticence there because in today's, social media trolling world, you start opening yourself up to, to being, trashed. And,
Mm-hmm.
you just see
Haters.
well, the haters are out there, and that can make your mental health even worse, even if you're trying to do the right thing. And to your point, John, too, I was just thinking that think of the stand-up comedians that you have liked, that you like. Almost all the best stand-up comedy comes from a real place, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not made up scenarios. It's about everyday life, real situations we all experience, but they're able to put some sort of twist on it. Same thing happens on the radio, right? That you're just, if you're an on-air personality, you're going to the grocery store every week too, right? You get flat tires too, um, things like that.
Well, and the other thing I would talking to the individual, I just, tell me about your neighbors. Tell me what's going on with them. Tell me something. And there may be something that it comes up with a neighbor. I can say, okay, here's something that you can get into, not naming the neighbor by name, but I have a friend who's going through this. Um, Anybody, are you going through the same thing? Let's talk about it. And I think it's a good thing. See, that's where I see the program director in me say, well, it may be too much of a conversation, or maybe too long of a conversation, but then again, it's not. I think we have to just throw out the rules now, because we're in a different era, different age of listening, and we've got to do some stuff that gets attention. And I think when you reach out like that, you're going to get some attention, and people will talk about
Yeah, yeah, and I agree with you, and I think that personalities. It seems that radio personalities, a lot of times, the first thing they want to demonstrate is either being glib or funny, right? And everything, all emotions are entertaining, right? Drama is just as entertaining as a good comedy. You know, I had a morning guy once who was just the nicest guy in the world, and we joke because we called him the comedy black hole because that's where jokes went to die. And I remember coaching him and saying, "Dude, you're like the nicest guy in the world. Lean into that." But he was so upset that I told him he wasn't funny that he spent the next 2 weeks overboard trying to be funny.
You're trying to be funny. I
Make
love
up
it.
for it.
It didn't
Well,
go well.
and there are some personalities, a few that do that. I mean, Delilah has made a living out of
Right.
it.
Oh,
Excellent.
don't get me started. She's my favorite.
Well,
She really is
and think about why.
incredible.
Okay, because she would open up. She showed her vulnerability. You know all the things that she's been through because you listen
Hmm.
to her, and she
Yeah.
wasn't afraid to do that. And look at the respect she's gotten. And this woman is, I mean, what is she? 100 years old now? No offense, Delilah. She's been
She looks
around
really
for
good
quite a
though. She does.
while
Yeah.
and still has an amazing following and all ages. So that tells you that the audience is out there for this. They want that kind of attention and want to be able to articulate some issues and be vulnerable back to somebody.
Yeah, the thing about Delilah that's so incredible, and I'll age myself here a little bit too, but I mean, I'm a child of the 90s, right? So I remember, riding around in my mother's car, or my dad's car, wherever we were driving somewhere late at night, and it's Pillow Talk, right? That would come on. And I just remember, like, if I close my eyes, I did not just, so I remember the songs, of course, right? Because a lot of them were favorite songs of my, that I liked, and my mom liked some, artists from the 90s, and those love songs, and just very comforting. But just the stories. I mean, I can remember some specific stories of listeners that called in and like the conversation that she had with those listeners and how, like you said, John, she would bring up, oh, yeah, that's something that I've gone through in my own personal. So that's that idea of connection. I can't think it like off the top of my head of a personality that I know that has done that more than she did. And you're right, she created a following, and now I'm grown, I'm into my 30s, but you still remember those moments. That's how impactful that type of thing is.
And I think if the radio station addresses it too, from a standpoint of, maybe you have events that are tied into, as I've mentioned in the column, events that may be tied into some mental health uh, seminars, things of that nature. It brings that level up, and the staff feels it too, and they feel more open to communicate to the listener in that sense. I think if it starts at that level, at the radio station level, that also helps because you send a message to the audience that we care about you, we want to know about you, and we're giving you all these different forums to just talk to us. There's nobody's going to get in trouble. We're not going to post a million things on Facebook or anything like that.
Right.
This is just a conversation to make you feel better and maybe
Yeah,
give you some idea.
yeah. I mean, empathy is just another color in the emotional palette for a personality, right? And
Pal,
and it,
write that one down, pal. That's a quote. I'm serious. That's good. I like that.
feel free to steal it.
Okay.
Steve's
It's yours.
bringing the great lines as usual.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Steve. I'm sorry, everyone.
No, but I mean, obviously, you don't want to overdo it, but I go back to what I said earlier. I mean, radio has always been an emotional medium. It's been a connection medium, and like I said, all emotions are potentially entertaining, right? Funny, sad, happy, whatever. There's engagement in all of those, and I think the more well-rounded you are, as a personality, and I like your point about the radio station. It can't just be Delilah from 7 to midnight,
Right.
right?
It's got to be a whole group endeavor.
You know,
Yeah, and mental health month too. I think of like, why can't the station really, a station could really lean into that.
Right.
And, promotional, like there's a bunch of different things, events,
Oh, yeah.
and then again, all tied into, and then maybe you do something where you get callers in, or you get, a personality that's going to ask questions or share.
Right.
But something that comes to my mind too, and again, we're going back to this millennials and Gen Z, but these are the people that we're struggling to reach, right? And we're trying to get them into, the power of radio. I, watch a lot of these influencers on Instagram, and a lot of these influencers are doing this type of stuff. Like they'll go on and do a whole spiel about, something that's going on in their lives and how they know that other people are going through the same thing. So that people that generation is really like seeking that. And what better way to do it, with radio than by connecting with them that way, the same way they're used to scrolling through those reels on Instagram, the same thing.
I don't buy the radio should be an escape thing, because I think that ship has sailed. I think it's good to be able to be an escape at certain times, but I think it's one of those things that we need to be there for them in every situation, and that's where this comes in. We've kind of we've kind of we not ignored it, but we kind of stayed away from it because we want to be an escape. But then again, we're addressing it inside our building. So how about address it outside?
Well, it gets back to the whole thing of that A, we don't own music anymore, and that if radio is going to thrive long term, it's got to be about the people and the personalities and those connections. I mean, again, I mean, think of the big ones, right? I mean, agree or disagree with Rush Limbaugh, he was compelling, and he covered all the bases. Same with Howard, love him or hate him, what he brought to the table was great, and you could read their other personalities. Bert comes to mind, of people that do that. Bobby Bones has really grown into that. Because I remember when he first came on, it was like, I know he's not talking to me, but now he's become that kind of covers all the bases things and reaches out. I think that's an opportunity for radio because it's also authentic, right? Isn't that the big thing with the kids today? Authenticity.
Yes.
It is. It is. I mean, I think
Be real.
there's been a lot more research about that too, saying that younger people, not only are they looking for connection, but the authenticity, and what we've also touched on is the trust, right? And I feel like the only way for that to be built with a personality is to have you're allowed to be a little bit vulnerable, like you said, John, not over the line crazy where you're sharing all kinds of, personal details, but sharing enough that then the personality can come back and maybe share something about what's going on in their lives or in their community and connect.
Experiences, whatever it may be. I mean, you mentioned about be real. I mean, I have my 26-year-old. We'll be out to dinner with her, and all of a sudden, it's time to be real. And I thought, what the heck is that? So it's some kind of social media thing where you take a picture automatically, and it goes online for about 5 minutes, and it goes away. But it was your chance to be real.
Oh, yep.
And and I went and checked it out, and it's a ton of people on it, and they're all that age. And I think they're really looking for the connection because they've never really had it. I mean, it's let's face it, that age group, when they grew up, the boys were playing baseball and basketball and soccer and football from when they were, 5 years old, and out of the house. And when they weren't, they were at their faces in their iPad. So and then this pandemic comes along while they're all in college, and it creates another part of anxiety for them. I mean, that's a big level. Anxiety is tough for them. They really experience it a lot because they just have never learned how to deal with it. And that's the other thing. That's where a radio station can help and say, hey, if you have this issue, we're doing this thing Saturday at blank. Come on out. And maybe we're going to have puppies there and all kinds, whatever. But just something to create that kind of an opening for people.
A community.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
I mean,
I think
look, becoming an adult is hard. So.
it is. It's tough. And
I've heard this
today's world.
I've heard this. She said, "Adulting is annoying." Is what she's told me. And she says, "I wish I were home and just still in school." I said, "Okay."
Well, John, you made the point so well. Like younger people today, the struggle, and again, not to take away from what previous generations had. There's been struggle and challenges forever, but the struggles that are going on are just so different, I think. And younger people, like you said, they, maybe they graduated college in the pandemic or, whatever. Like now they're at a place where they don't necessarily know how to manage a lot of these feelings. And not everybody has the, whether the wherewithal or whatever, like the ability or the drive to just call up a therapist. Like, yes, some people do take advantage of therapy, and that's important and good,
Right.
but not everybody does. And especially, I feel like people from the younger generations, there is still like kind of that stigma with it, like, oh, well, I'm fine. I'm fine. This
Yeah.
is just how it is. Everyone lives in survival mode. I'm
Right. Right.
okay.
Right.
And maybe really acknowledging it and having a personality acknowledge it, like with some kind of intro, or not too long or crazy, because like you said, we don't want it to go on too keep going on and on, but just being able to really say, like, hey, we know it's tough out there, we know, like, we're with you, we get it, we want you to feel comfortable and be able to share your feelings. And I don't know, I know I'd appreciate that as a listener
Well,
for
and I
sure, and I
know,
feel like every generation would.
and we have this, and I say we, I look at the industry in general, we have this mistaken impression that the Gen Zs or whatever the younger age groups just kind of look at radio with disdain. And
Mm.
I really don't think that's the case. I think they just look at radio as, well, that's what my mom and dad listen to, and it's on periodically and it's there. But if you let them know that we're here to listen to you, we're here to help, we're here to do, to dig into your life a little bit, and and just have a conversation, I think they'll be open to it. When you look at the contemporary Christian format, a lot of that a lot of that audience is from that age group. It's because there's somebody who listens to them.
Oh, well, it's also, I mean, not to go down that rabbit hole, but the music has
Yeah.
it's not the Christian stuff that was, people listened to in the 60s.
Well,
It's
and
real music.
but the communication is very different, and that's the thing that we can, and again, I'm giving it. I'm writing. I just wrote something about this that'll come out, but there's a lot we can learn from that, just as a talent and as a talent coach, because there are some things we avoid, and we always tell the personality, you be you, and then they think they have to be funny, right? As in the
A
case
lot of pressure when you tell them just be yourself. That's so much
of,
pressure.
but the first thing is to let them know, get to know who you are, and rather than say you be you, find out who they are. I mean, one of the things I went through, I spoke to a group at the Radio Talent Institute about a month ago, and told them about what are the things they have to put together when they look for a job. And I said, resume is a good thing. I said, but you know what? Tell me your story. When I ask an artist, when I sit down with an artist that for the first time, I'll ask them, what's your story? And your story is who you are. Your resume is what you've done, but your story is who you are. And I think that's what we don't do enough of that, even with our personalities. What's your story? Tell me your story. Give me you find out who you are, and then you can help them become who they are. But we have a tendency, well, he's funny, or he's got this, he's got that, but you don't really sit down and talk to them and get to know them. And I think that's part of the talent coaching side of it, is to really spend some time. This doesn't take overnight. This takes a while.
I think, like you said, John, too, it doesn't have to be all or nothing either, right? So those personalities that everybody's like, oh, well, they're just funny. Or like you mentioned, Steve, that guy that thought he was really funny, he wasn't, but he was so set on, well, that's just my thing. That's what I do. I do comedy. I don't do anything else. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. There's a time and a place for everything. There's a time to be funny. And there's also a time to lean into some sensitive, serious stuff and have that empathy come out. So I
Yeah,
feel like you can't be just pigeonholed into that one little thing. People will appreciate the versatility. And I can think of some exact cases where I've been listening to stations on the radio and I know the personalities, and yeah, they're usually funny and kind of like they have that quick banter. It was, a man and a woman going back and forth. But then there's another day where they do like sharing stories about good news, or something that's different, and you appreciate that they have the flexibility to move between kind of those two areas.
absolutely. So if that's,
Well,
go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
well, I was say, getting back to the program director hat that you put on. Yeah, I know the reticence for a lot of this is, oh my gosh, the PPM meter is tuning out because you've talked longer than 90 seconds.
Yeah,
And
right.
to me, if you're going to approach this, you approach it from a depth perspective versus a time perspective, right? I would rather have a 5-minute bit that is meaningful and engaging and getting somewhere than a 90-second bit that says nothing. I mean, think of something like War of the Roses, right? I mean, we all radio people know it's fake, but how long is the average War of the Roses bit? I mean, it's a long bit, but it's very successful because it's compelling and real, or realish, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I mean, there are one of the things that I always talk about, and I've talked about this with artists too, specifically because this has become such a numbers oriented society. In the business too, numbers oriented. Like with an artist, when you go to listen to, I want you to listen to this artist's music. What are her numbers? Okay, you don't want to listen to music first? No, I want to see her numbers. And everybody gets caught up in numbers, and you're basically dealing with a big universe of people who dabble rather than the people who are really engaged with you, because they're the ones who are going to make you successful. They're the ones who are going to be with you, who are going to be, and that following can build. Because I basically tell my artists, build on that. Forget about how many Spotify listeners you have. Build on the people who are engaging with your videos, with your music, that are engaging with you on socials. Build on that, because that's what's going to carry you into the future. And I think
It's not just about clicks. It's not just about
no,
clicks.
exactly. And I think that's what we get caught up in on the radio side, is we get caught up. Well, we have 150,000 followers on Facebook. Great. How many of them are engaged? And that's what we have to really, and that's how this all came about too, is you can really show that you care, and then they care, and then you have engaged listeners. You have people who have become loyal. They trust you. You build trust, which is the other thing. So there's a lot that goes into it, but I think I'm not saying we're missing the boat. I'm just saying it's something more that we could do.
It's an opportunity.
Yep,
There's an opportunity, yeah,
absolutely,
to act on it. And
absolutely.
right now, especially, the time, like you pointed out, Steve, we've pointed this out many times in several of our recent articles and videos, but things need to change. It's time for some things. It's time, going on your theme, John. It's time.
Yeah,
It's time for some things to change. And I think jumping on any opportunities like this where we can increase connection, increase audience engagement. That's why I really liked this article, John. And I thank you so much for coming on and talking about it. I think this was a great conversation. If you guys have any feedback or any thoughts, anything else you'd like us to cover, I know John will be back on another time. I'm looking forward to reading that article you were mentioning that you're working on. And as usual, thank you, Steve, for being a part of the
absolutely.
conversation. I will put the link in the description of this video when it gets posted on YouTube. I will put the link to John's article so you can read it in full, and also how you can contact him if you have any questions for him about anything he's done. So awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being here with me today. And until next time, we are signing off. The Power of Podcast. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.